Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Listen to my story. I may not have much time left. Actually, that's not true. I pretty much all the time in the world to talk about one of my favorite games of all time, Final Fantasy X. The video game that was the very first to ever make me cry. It exposed the fact that this wonderful interactive media could draw tears out of my, would have been high school freshmore self, or freshman self. Freshmore? It's like a combination of sophomore and freshman. I don't know. Yeah, this game tore me to pieces because it's so damn good. I remember being so excited for this game because I was a big Final Fantasy kid growing up. I primarily jumped in on the PlayStation with Final Fantasy VIII being my real first one, and then kind of going back and playing 7 and 9. But, you know, I had the PS2, which was still pretty new at the time, and I remember so psyched for Final Fantasy X with all the advancements it had with graphics and especially voice acting at the time. Of like, wow, we can actually hear these weirdly dressed Square Enix characters for the first time. Okay, that's different. And I remember, I don't even remember how I got it, now that I think about it. It's just like, I didn't have money. I can only assume I probably asked for it. It's always funny, right, when you have like when you're at the age where you're not able to get games on your own, at least through the traditional means. So sometimes you forget that you get games. You're like, it's just somehow, or maybe that's just me. There's so many things where I'm just like, I don't even know how I got that. It just sort of appeared in my house one day. Like it just materialized. Maybe I just put it out to the universe. Like it would be cool to play this brand new Final Fantasy game. If only the heavens opened up and just rained down copies of Final Fantasy X. So you know what? Since I don't remember how I got it in the first place, I'm going to say that that's what happened. I'm going to say that I did a little bit of a rain dance of sorts, and then the main theme kicked in and just floated down from the sky, kind of like a phoenix down feather, just landed in front of me. And I was like, wow, that's amazing and terrifying. I should probably ask for things more often if it's this easy. Yeah, I think the thing about this game, it's probably it's either my number 2 Final Fantasy, and it switches that place between Final Fantasy 7 and it depends on the day, because my number 1 overall is still probably Final Fantasy 6, but like 10 is always nudging up against it, and you got to catch me on a day. But what I loved about the game is that it's just the story and the writing of like the characters, even Titus or Titus. I still want to call him Titus because that's what I grew up calling him until Dissidia came along and just took a big dump on what I thought his name was with that Titus nonsense. But like, as much of a dork as he was like an endearing dork, and just his whole story about, you know, being basically a idiot jock getting transferred to super duper fantasy land and meeting the cast like Yuna, who I fell in love with immediately, and then Waka, that knucklehead, and Lulu, and I'm not going to pretend to like Kamari. I honestly to this day I still just do not like Kamari. He's the guy that he is the bench warmer of the group, which is became a problem when you get to Mount Gagazet and you have to use him for that one fight, and he was severely under leveled the first time I went through it. But beyond him, Riku's great. Everyone's great but Kamari. But yeah, I just like something about the writing and the storytelling, and again the voice acting helped enhancement. It just made the series feel so much more cinematic in a way that not even Final Fantasy but just most games didn't at the time. And the combat system, like how it was like a refined, like a kind of faster paced version of like the ATP combat, I thought was such a joy. And just like I just like the stakes of the game of like this cool premise of this world that has to defend itself from this monster sin, and it's this thing that they can't kill for good, but all they can do is repel it through this pretty messed up ritual of getting a summoner to go out there and basically sacrifice themselves, and everyone's just okay with that. Like, especially as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate those kind of stories, or maybe not appreciate, but I don't know. I'm fascinated by those stories of like like old traditions that are like clearly outdated, but we still stick with them because we're just so used to them. Like it's so ingrained in our society, and we're just like, well, there's no other way we could do this. It's like I'm a sucker for stories of like a society like that is so stuck in its ways to its detriment, and then you have someone from the outside that comes in and goes like, why? Like, what if we didn't do that? What if we do literally anything else to combat this? You know, I don't want to overstep my bounds, but I'm just saying, I feel like there could be other avenues we could explore. I don't know. I feel like Final Fantasy X is a really good one of those kind of stories. Just so many memorable locations, and I just was enthralled with it throughout just the entire adventure. And also, for like, I guess on a darker note, Final Fantasy X, also one of my greatest heartaches, because it is the first time, at least that I can remember, maybe the worst time that I've ever lost my like save data in a big game. I remember playing for the first time, and I got to Mount Gagazet, and after struggling to get through the Kamari fight because he was a loser because I didn't use him, you fight Maester Seymour, winner of the Wackiest Hero Award. You fight him on that mountain, and he's hard as hell. Just a notoriously difficult fight. Couldn't beat him. Was just like ramming my head against the wall. And then eventually I was like, you know what? I just can't. I gotta take a break. And on this one particular day that I was taking a break, I had to, it was like back to school shopping or something. And I had to go to like Sears or something, or JCPenney with my mom. So I was like, all right, this is a nice break. I'm going to go. Now at the time, I had, my younger cousins were staying with us, and they stayed behind with my younger brother, because we weren't going to be gone long. So it's like, yeah, you guys hang out here. You know, we'll be right back. And I still don't know for sure, but I'm 95% sure that somewhere along the way while I was away, they found their way into my rooms. They were like little kids, right? But they were just old enough to know how to turn on a PlayStation, but not old enough to know how to not destroy it and ruin lives. But I'm convinced that at some point they turned on my PS2 and somehow found their way into the memory card menu, and then somehow even more erased my Final Fantasy X save, because when I got back from my shopping trip, which is always like, I've always hated back to school shopping. I hate clothes shopping in general. So I was just so happy to be over, and it had just like the boredom of that had recharged me. It had restored my vigor, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to give it another shot. I think I can take down Seymour this time. This is it. Just firing up PS2 full of piss and vinegar, and then to be greeted with that horrifying, like, save data not found message or whatever it was, and just staring at the screen, just like mouth agape, slack jaw, just like, and, you're like, I'm like rebooting the system. I'm like, clearly something's wrong. I must have trouble reading it. I'm like checking the memory card, or like not even, before I even go into the menu, I like take the memory card out and blow on it, because I was like, maybe there's some dust, like there has to be some explanation, and no help. And then I eventually went into the menu and saw that the save data was gone. The little slot that it once occupied, now that little hollow little square of just nothing, of free space, and just being completely devastated, because it's like, it's bad enough that data's gone, but then it's like, I don't even know what happened. Like, I don't know who to be mad at yet. And it's like, I mean, besides, it's not me. It's like, I know I saved and like didn't erase my data. So then I immediately have to, start pointing fingers, and then it's like, it has to be things. My brother wouldn't do it because he's not dumb enough to do that. And he wasn't playing Final Fantasy or anything. And he has his own PlayStation as well. So it's like, he has no reason to turn on mine. So then I just kind of like interrogated my cousins, who swore up and down they didn't, but like they were also kind of notorious, I would say liars, but maybe like less than truthful, we'll say. So it's like I just process of elimination. Like, who could it be? But this tragedy speaks to my love of the game, because probably in maybe some other games I would have just like sort of cut my losses, because at that point I'd already put in like dozens and dozens of hours, and it's like, do I want to do that all again? Just to get back to this point. But I was so just enamored with Final Fantasy X story. It's like, I have to know how it ends. I have to. So then, after taking a probably like a couple hours to sort of like cool down as best as I can, I immediately started up a new save. And, I guess the one silver lining to the disaster was that I got back to where I was much quicker and I was better equipped. I knew to put Kamari in my party and level him up. So by the time I had to use him against that in the one fight, it wasn't this struggle. So it was like, all right, well, and, you kind of appreciate it more just from virtue of like, re-experiencing it again of like, oh, there's little details here maybe I didn't miss, or like now that I have additional context from what's coming later, I can appreciate stuff that they set up earlier. So it overall enhanced my playthrough of the game, but it was still like that just goddamn it moment. And I beat Seymour. I beat Master Seymour quicker than I did because again I knew what was coming, so I spent even more time just out in the field, leveling up and grinding and all that good stuff. So I was like, all right, I know the wall I'm working my way towards, so let's try to tear it down faster this time. Be real, the Mr. Gorbachev of Final Fantasy. Nice history reference for your listeners. Yeah. And like I said, the thing that always makes me cry about the game is the ending. The thing that makes everyone cry about this game, like there's the scene where Yuna and Titus, they get separated. Titus, goes about his merry way. I don't know if we can spoil things on this podcast. I probably should have asked Matt that, but Matt's listening now, so I won't get into detail, but you know what it is. Like the scene that always broke me was when Yuna runs to hug him and just like falls through him and kind of just really eats it. But it's just like, it's so heartbreaking. And then the part afterwards, like when that all wraps up and you get to the big ending cutscene and she's like at the dock whistling to the sea because that's like their whistle, and she's trying to like in vain to see if he'll show up, and it's just like, oh, she's still holding on to like, maybe he's still out there, maybe, check back in Final Fantasy X too, who can say? But yeah, it's still my favorite Final Fantasy story since then. Like, I don't think at the time of recording, I've not finished Final Fantasy 16 and I am enjoying a game story. So I guess maybe TBD on that. But I'd say I have not enjoyed a Final Fantasy story as much since 10. Like there have been some good ones. Like I like 12 and I like elements of some other ones. And I'm also someone that has not played the MMO of 14 very much. So, I mean, that's another big asterisk because I know people love that. But I still hold 10 as like the last time a Final Fantasy story was truly, truly excellent and captivating, at least for me. So that's why it'll always have a special place in my heart. So thanks, Final Fantasy X. Thanks for teaching me that young high school men are indeed capable of shedding tears and showing emotion to a bunch of polygons on screen. I appreciate it, and because of it, I cry a lot more, not just in video games, but in medium. And yes, I could chalk that up to just getting older, but I'm going to say that Final Fantasy X opened those floodgates, so forever grateful for it. So thanks, Final Fantasy X, and as always, happy gaming!
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun. Whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
Hey there, Screen Beans. Have you heard about Screen Snark?
Rachel, this is an ad break. They aren't screen beans until they listen to the show.
Fine. Potential Screen Beans. You like movies and TV shows, right?
I mean, who doesn't? Screen Snark is a casual conversation about the movies and television shows that are shaping us as we live our everyday lives.
That's right, Matt. We have a chat with at least one incredible guest every episode, hailing from all walks. We've interviewed chefs,
Writers, costumers, musicians,
yoga teachers, comedians, burlesque dancers,
folks in the film and TV industry.
and more.
We'd be delighted for you to join us every other Monday on the Certain POV Podcast Network.
Or wherever you get your podcasts, fresh and tasty off the presses.
What? But that's not.
Can I call them Screen Beans now?
Fine.
Screen Beans!
So tune in and we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
Cause you're all Screen Beans now.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.